Welcome back to Whole Wheat Costa. Tonight on the beer table we have Franzenkiner Weissbier.
Not the
If
vice bear.
yeah, if Kevin can pronounce that a little better.
I can't. I think I don't know. I've known a couple people that speak German. I think it's a really cool language. I probably it would be on my top five list of languages to learn. I think.
Oh, there's definitely yeast at the bottom in this bottle.
So it's like really cloudy.
Yeah, it's a there's yeast in the so it might ferment a little more in the bottle. It's pretty good.
Nice.
Have you tried it?
I haven't tried it yet.
Try it.
I'm trying to admit it.
Yeah.
So I tried looking it up, but it went to a German website. Their their actual official website. I tried it. I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah, it's pretty mellow.
Yeah, it
Pretty good.
almost
There's
overflowed me.
I've seen it. I've seen it a bunch of times at different liquor stores. There's a monk on the front, and he's holding what seems to be like a 5 gallon pail, maybe, or just his robe. He's
I
just
don't know
holding.
what he's holding.
Yeah, he's holding a lot of beer.
There's a lot of keys.
Yeah,
He
he's a
looks,
maester. He's a maester.
looks a little bit like the last pope,
Yeah,
the German pope.
yeah, probably
Um,
is him.
I don't know. I think I'm pretty fascinated by German. My only real experience with it is when the last NHL lockout happened, both Danny Briere and Claude Giroux played for the Berlin Ice Baron, the Ice Bears. And I watched like a few of their games, and it was I don't know. I guess like English and German are like close enough. Like I mean, I had no idea what they were saying, but like you could understand just from the cadence sort of what they were saying a little bit. Like you get the like you could understand like the spirit of what they were saying, if that makes sense. Because I guess you're used to watching hockey, used to watching hockey announcers, and then I guess the language is spoken similarly enough, even though the words are all different. That like it's sort of like you could like it was entertaining to watch still, even not being able to understand anything. Um, I don't know. Versus like I don't know. I feel like watching like Spanish soccer. I didn't understand like the cadence of things as much.
Well, a lot of English is based off,
Yeah.
German. So I mean, it's a mutt of a language. But something I'm looking up. Do you think, or do you know if Germany is like a Catholic country?
I don't know.
Like, what are monks?
Yeah, I guess they're generally Catholic, right?
Yeah, right.
So, I don't know.
My computer just restarted, so everything's taking forever. So,
So,
um,
so the breweries apparently the Spaten, Franzen, Connor, Brawl, and then there's a word just GmbH. I don't know what the hell that is. It's apparently a brewery in Munich, Bavaria, Germany. It's owned by the Spaten Löwenbräu Gruppe, which is part of the Belgo-Brazilian company Anheuser-Busch InBev. So apparently, like every beer is just made by the same fucking people.
well, I mean, I was watching like a mini documentary, like by mini, like 25 minutes about how InBev does own a lot of beer companies, but they only do it so like a lot of beer, like craft breweries, they can still do whatever they want,
Okay.
but they have to kick up enough money
Mm.
to InBev to stay in this conglomerate of beers and drinks.
Yeah.
But they also, if they want, can get price discounts through their bulk
So
suppliers.
they're just like the beer mafia,
Yeah,
essentially. They're not
pretty
really a
much.
company so much
Yeah,
as they just shake you down if you don't pay them
yeah.
enough.
So you're producing your own beer, but you're kicking money back up. But you can also save money by buying your ingredients in bulk.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: a lot of people love Goose Island,
Yeah.
and from what I hear, Goose Island
Mm.
is actually like it's just name. They just InBev or whoever owns Goose Island
Mm.
just keeps their name, and they completely sold out and they don't make their own beer anymore, and people
Okay.
and some people are like, oh, this is great beer, and it's like, well, you kind of just drinking regular beer with the Goose Island. Then they have the Goose Island ciders, and that's why I don't drink Goose Island, because I don't think they're very flavorful.
Versus like Franzen Connor, which just is a bunch of monks who occasionally get their thumbs broken
Yeah.
by Anheuser-Busch.
So I looked it up, and Germany, if I can bring
Yeah.
this closer, and this is kind of surprising. Nondescript is 59.3 Christianity, so just general
Okay.
Christianity.
Probably
Um,
all dirty Protestants.
yeah. 34.4 non-religious.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. I guess I don't know with some of the problems they've had in the last 100 years.
Yeah. 5.5 percent Islam and zero point 0.8 other religion.
Yeah, not a lot of Jewish people.
Yeah.
Um, but which worked out well for us because the best ones came over here. So, um, but I feel like the title of this episode should probably be Guten Tag. Because I actually have a whole German story to tell too. And this is like completely unplanned. The German beer discussion. Well, before I even get to that, do you know the weapon, the Guten Tag?
No, I do not.
Um, so I mean, I've never really independently fact checked this, but there was
Real,
some.
real,
Sorry.
real quick. Compared to America, it's 70% Christian, 22% unaffiliated, 1.9% Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist, Hindu, and other faiths. You
Yeah,
notice how Germany had no Jews in it.
that's what I was saying. Yeah, I like started to say, and then I was like, oh, is that like too rough of a joke? But
Yeah.
um, but
Well, I mean, like it is one of those things where you can make it a joke, but you can also just say a fact in a joking way, and either
yeah,
way, someone's gonna get offended. Like
yeah.
it's a fact, but
Well, I tried to solve it. I followed it up with I think you were looking stuff up, but that it worked. It actually worked out well for us because all the best ones like came over to here like
right,
during World War II.
right.
Um, but um, but yeah. So the Guten Tag apparently was like Middle Ages German weapon, like when the armored knight started to come around, and it was basically literally just they would take a big log, or like small enough that you could hold, and just put like chunks of metal sticking out of it. So it's just basically just a spiked club. But the idea was that if you were like a peasant against an armored knight, you could just bash him with this giant club with all the spikes coming out of it, and like you had a chance at least.
German craftsmanship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So my weirdly my one of my German topics was extra history. Just did 6-part series on Bismarck, Otto von Bismarck, who basically formed the country of
Yeah,
Germany.
he unified Germany.
Yes.
The guy, I forget his name completely, but I think the guy who unified Italy,
Mm.
like I'm pretty sure his name was like Giuseppe.
Yeah. and he probably talked like this.
Yeah, yeah, with his fingers. Yeah.
um, yeah, we're just going with all the races today. Yeah, so they did the 6-part series on Bismarck, which I mean, I've only watched it once so far, so I don't know. I feel like I usually end up watching their series like a few times and like really like sort of learn some of the facts, and then like a couple I've sort of looked up side stuff on, which is, which they usually say is their goal to get people interested enough that they go and like research it themselves, because they're just one secondary source. So, and what I like about Extra History is they have this lies episode at the end of every series where they say, oh, here's some things we realized we screwed up afterwards. This is why you shouldn't trust any particular secondary source. You should look stuff up yourself. But then they also sort of like, Stan Marsh, like, what do we learn today? And they had an interesting take on the Bismarck series because Bismarck was like a really conservative guy. Like he was actually like a monarchist. Like he, in the time where like other countries in Europe were like developing like some form of democracy or at least like some sort of like republicanism. He was like an autocrat, and he believed in like the like dictatorship basically. And one of the points they make is that the difference between like a dictator and democracy, with a good dictator, like dictatorship's actually probably better. But what democracy gives you is it doesn't give you the best person all the time, but it gives you like consistency. It gives you like a pretty good person all the time.
Dictatorship to me is some guy goes, I know what's best for us and our country. And democracy is we vote some guy who goes, I know what's best for this country, but you guys have to vote me. And then eventually, once we start paying and people start paying enough money, they know what's best for this country.
Yeah. Well, the idea is with dictatorship, like I know what's best for this country, and if the guy really does know what's best, it's awesome. But with a line of dictators, eventually you're going to get someone who doesn't know, and then it sucks.
Right.
Versus with democracy, everyone's probably okay.
Right.
And then if they're not okay, then like you get to vote them out of office.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. No matter who's in charge,
Yeah.
most people are going to complain because not everybody's going to get their way.
Oh yeah. Now that I'm no longer in a management position, I complain every single day. I send a minimum 4 whining emails per day to whoever will listen. People don't even respond to me anymore. I'm pretty sure they just delete them.
Oh,
So,
that's what I do. There's so many complaints at work, and I'm not
yeah.
even. I just get CC'd on emails, and I just delete them. And
Mhm.
people go, "You didn't respond to my email," and I was like, "Well, why do I have to?" Well, it was for everyone, and I was like, "Do you have to get a response from every single person?" Well, it's appreciated. It was nah, don't
Yeah.
worry about it.
Just respond all to everything. Be real annoying.
Yeah. So I was right. It's Giuseppe Manzini and Giuseppe Garibaldi. So not only is it one Giuseppe, it's two
Two Giuseppes.
Giuseppes.
That's awesome. Um, but the real relevant Bismarck point though, and I kind of like they usually tie the series, back to like modern day stuff, was that, um, essentially Bismarck, pretty early in his career, since he was like a social conservative guy, linked up with all these like little more extremists, like conservative groups that were like anti-Semites or like flat out racists, um, and sort of pander to them a little bit so he could get their get their support and use them as part of his power structure. But as a result, he had to put like some of their policies into place, like some of the softer ones, and there's not really any evidence that Bismarck himself was an anti-Semite. He like spoke out against like discriminating against people based on religion or whatever, but he allowed people to have a little bit of power that were. And the point they made in the episode was like, oh, so you raise like the racism level in the country from like 0% to 5%. Like it's still such a minor thing, it's not a big deal. Like, what are the chances that like the entire economy, that you're going to lose the biggest war in history, and that the entire economy is going to collapse to the point where you have to use a wheelbarrow of money to buy a loaf of bread, and things are going to get that bad that it's going to allow the rise of someone that causes the Holocaust. Like, what are the chances until it actually happens?
Zero. And then
Yeah,
you're like, oh, 5%.
yeah. So then the obvious connection there is what's going on with like the more conservative party today in America, where I mean, you have to think that like a lot of these politicians like are not racists, but I mean, at least I hope they're not. But they're courting these more extreme groups to use them to get into power and to stay in power, with the probably in their heads thinking like, oh, we're just gonna let these wackos do what they want for a little bit. We'll rein them in, but we'll get to use them. But it's like a little bit of a dangerous game, because we saw what happened in Germany, where basically the politicians there did the same thing, and then it got out of control.
But it also was a little different because Germany's fighting for respect at that point. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
respect me, and the old world powers, England, Russia, Prussia, the Ottoman Empire, France. They're all like, no,
Yeah,
like who are you, a little guy? And Germany's like, respect me, and people were like, no, and obviously they went to war, and at the end of it, they're like, we still don't have respect for you.
well, that's the couple. I mean, the like the backstory for our many listeners, if they don't know, was essentially you had all these old superpowers, England and France, and like I said, that these sort of dying
Yeah.
empires.
Spain.
Um,
Spain, who is still at civil war, by the
are
way.
they really?
Yeah,
Oh,
still at civil
oh,
war because I think the north is very rich
yeah,
and the south is very poor,
yeah,
and the north is like, nah, we want to separate.
yeah.
It's still like what 150 years now.
Oh,
Spain's been at war,
yeah.
civil war.
But but essentially, part of the cause of World War I, where you had all these old empires, and then you had just a bunch of like Germanic states in the middle, right in the middle of Europe, like literally in the center. And then someone, in this case Bismarck, unified them all into one country.
The king beyond the wall.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now you all of a sudden all of the biggest powers in Europe were now second to this new German state, which had more manpower, a better military, more money, more industrial capacity than any other country in Europe, but they were brand new. So the one example, actually, it was like an old extra history that talked about World War One. They used the example of like, what if like today, like the EU all formed into one country, and then America and Russia went to the EU and said, "Well, I know you're this huge country now, but like, you can't buy Middle Eastern oil. Like we buy the Middle Eastern oil. Like you can buy from us at an increased price,
Right.
but you can't buy it from the Middle East. Like that's essentially what happened to Germany. These old powers treated it like it was still nothing, when really it was the most powerful country. And, as you can see, but the fact that it took all of Europe and the United States to defeat it in 2 wars.
Right. 2 wars.
Yeah, but but the other interesting World War One point though is what happened after the war, which was, and this is what like the like the armistice day is like a big thing because
Which is what, November 11th?
I think so.
November 11th, 1917.
Yeah, because like if you compare World War One to World War Two, after World War Two we tried to like rebuild some of these countries. After World War One we tried to punish Germany, and it basically directly led to World War Two.
Well, here's the thing, and this is a weird fact that I learned about the other day.
Mm.
Germany's reparations were terrible,
Yeah,
and they were paying them, and they were good. And this kind of proves how much of a superpower America was back in 1929. When the collapse of the economy came in America,
yeah,
it affected the entire world, and
Yeah.
that's how big of a trade partner America was almost 100 years ago.
yeah,
And that's crazy because that is still like a thing today where people put down America like, oh, America's in debt, America's this, America's that. But we hit a small recession like 10 years ago, and the world economy like almost collapsed. They were talking
Yeah.
about a Great Depression again just because of that small recession. So, America's been a world power for 100 years now.
yeah, yeah. But the the point though with the with the peace thing was that there's the line that we won the First World War but we lost the peace. The idea that instead of making reasonable demands and reasonable terms and trying to find a way to bring stability to the world, everyone just wanted to punish Germany, and it sent Germany into such a tailspin that it led to the rise of everybody that made World War II happen. So
But you have to think about, and this sounds bad, and I always do this, but I always think about the bright side of World War One. The World War One industrialized China and Japan, and then World War Two industrialized China and Japan, and it brought like those wars brought them from the Stone Age basically to the modern age.
So, which I don't know. I mean, I've never seen any numbers on this, but I kind of feel like that's what's going to destroy the planet, though, because if you think about how much pollution there already is, and now that China is now industrializing even more, and there are going to be more people driving and more factories, like
Yeah, it's already
a lot
terrible.
of fucking pollution.
China's so bad they had. Remember reading about they had a 3-day backup on a 50-lane highway in China.
Jesus.
Yeah, so that's how bad it is. It'll level out one day. I don't know when.
I guess when we have the runaway greenhouse gases and we turn into Venus, I guess then we'll be fine.
Actually, I read another thing. The greenhouse gases are bad,
Mm.
but they're not at the worst levels they've ever been.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Um. London used to be so bad
Yeah.
you couldn't see in front of you during the day.
Yeah, well, there was I don't know what time period it was. I feel like it was like early 1900s where there was some like killer London smog. Like there was like a week or whatever that killed thousands of people because
Yeah.
of how bad the pollution was.
It was so bad, and that was most major cities at that time. It was so bad, but then
Yeah, but I don't think planet wise it was as bad.
oh, it was terrible.
I don't know.
Yeah, this isn't the worst it's ever been.
Yeah. But I don't know if I have any other German topics to talk about, but
The rise of Nazism in Germany now,
Yeah.
which is kind of crazy.
Is it? Is it coming? I mean, obviously we have all these morons here, but
Yeah, no, in Germany they have the actual Germany and France. They actually have the Nazi Party.
you think just branding wise, you would pick a different
Yeah,
name?
national. Yeah, and like when France had their elections like a couple
Yeah.
months ago, they were like, yeah, National Socialists, and like people were like, well, we have Trump here, and they're like, yeah, a literal Nazi is trying to be
Yeah.
elected.
I don't know. I was watching all Robert Frank videos when I was driving over, and he had like one of his ones about racism. Me about how all these pasty white boys don't even fucking lift.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's bad that you're watching Robert Frank videos while driving, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, I don't have to, I don't actually look at I don't have to look at the phone to do it. I can just click and then it's annoying with Instagram though because my phone like auto like will
Autoplay, yeah,
well whatever it'll like if I don't touch the screen on so YouTube's fine, but in Instagram if I'm watching an Instagram video the screen will shut off and it
right,
cuts it off. So like I'm not looking at the phone, I'm looking at the road, but I'm like just casually like swiping my thumb down the screen,
yeah.
which is kind of annoying. I don't know if anyone knows how to like turn auto screen off on an Android. Tell me because
Yeah.
I've tried to do it before. I can't figure it out.
All right, so I'm gonna change the subject real quick. Something that it's about job interview.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking at just jobs today. I was looking at them, and even jobs that like I'm not even qualified for, and I saw a job opening, a job posting today,
Mm-hmm.
where like requirements. The first one was degree. The first one was registered nurse.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of them were PhD in psychology,
Mm-hmm.
PhD in mental health counseling, PhD in occupational therapy, and PhD in like something else. And I was just thinking to myself, and I'm like, why would RN, registered nurse, not BSN or
Mm-hmm.
masters in
Yeah.
nursing or whatever, why is RN even a comparable education? Like,
it's probably the highest paid job on that list too.
yeah, but I mean, like comparably, like that education for behavioral health something, like that
Yeah.
education level is like nowhere near
Yeah.
as like in depth. Like nurses, whatever, they save lives, and I'm not putting them down or anything,
Mm.
but like having your like my belief, having your RN, being an RN,
Yeah.
does not qualify you to be in the same league as someone with their PhD.
Yeah. Oh, I think it depends. So it depends exactly what you're doing. And there's a lot to unpack there because so I actually worked with and when I started like I don't know
Oh,
10 years ago.
it was for counseling
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I started like 10 years ago. I actually worked with a couple of people that were like diploma nurses, which is like a really old school thing. Like essentially like 100 years ago, you know, there wasn't really formalized nursing education. So you would essentially like get trained like by a hospital. You know, you get a diploma saying like you were trained as a nurse, and then you could like take the test to like become a registered nurse.
Yeah, my grandma did one of those, but she was
Yeah.
never an RN.
Okay.
Yeah, like she helped people out during the war and stuff.
Yeah. So it was like pretty informal. And then like I don't know when, sometime over the last 50 years, like it started where like you had to have actually some where like most people had some sort of degree. And most people now have a bachelor's degree in nursing. And it's just but you don't actually need it in most states to practice. You just need like some sort of like that diploma thing still exists. I think in Pennsylvania there's still a couple of programs too. And essentially, which is just like really weird. But there's a lot in nursing education that's weird because it's a women's field. So the idea is that because it's like more of a woman's field, it was always sort of disrespected education wise. So like the education requirements weren't as high. Like even today, like you know the National Nurses Association is trying to push to have like a bachelor's degree be the entry to practice, which like I mean you're potentially taking care of like super complex sick patients, like you probably should need at least you should probably need at least the same degree you need to work at fucking like Starbucks.
Right.
Like,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
Like I'm not putting down anyone.
yeah,
But I really feel that unless you're doing just regular intake
yeah,
and you're in a counseling position,
yeah,
requirement should be more than RN, registered nurse.
yeah,
Like you're a nurse practitioner.
yeah,
Like that master's level education
mm,
because you have furthered your education past your basic like
yeah,
boards and everything. So like unless you're an intake person and you're trying to talk to them, like but the rest of the qualifications are like PhD level.
yeah,
Like someone with their PhD, that's 9 years of school
yeah,
and tons of research. Maybe it's specialized in one thing or another, but like you really have to know your stuff, especially when you're counseling someone.
mm,
Like there's so much that can go wrong.
yeah,
Because if you tell, if you're talking to someone with one mental illness or whatever,
mm,
and you're giving them information for a different one, like
yeah.
how to counsel, how to cope, and everything, like that's real bad.
Yeah, well, I think any RN with like at least a bachelor's degree would like 100% agree with that. I think like I said, and the push just sort of nationally is like that you should need at least that. And a lot of nursing again because of sort of how informal the initial training was like 100 years ago and hadn't fully gotten away from that. Like a lot of it's more on the job than like in school training. Even like on the nurse practitioner level, like I mean I didn't take specialized classes in my specialty. Like if you like if you're a urologist, like you do years of urology residency. I mean I happen to have urology experience as a nurse, but I mean essentially I get a degree as a nurse practitioner in like general health and then say I work in urology now
Yeah.
and then like I learn as I go.
Right.
And that's generally how it works and I think nursing is the same sort of way so like you probably have like psych nurses
Right.
that like are way smarter and better with patients than these people with PhDs.
Right.
But
That's
then
fine.
but then you probably have people that show up and have no fucking idea what they're doing too.
Right. That's fine. If you're a psych
Yeah.
nurse and you have experience and you have
Yeah.
at least your bachelor's or you're working towards your
Yeah.
master's, there's just like from going to college, I just
Mm.
realized there's a level of education. It's like anything else, really. Like your first day on the job as a server, you're not going to be a great server.
Yeah.
3 years into that serving, you're going to know the menu back and forth. You might be able to like cook the meals yourself. Like a lot more.
Yeah.
So I think it takes that time and practice and just the internship that a PhD person would do, like the different research and everything. Yeah, the nurse may be way better at talking to people and everything, but I just don't think an RN is comparable to
Yeah.
a PhD in psychology.
Yeah.
And I don't think they should be able to hire it for the same job.
Yeah, and I mean it's really still not nationally standardized enough. So like a good school, it's like I went to LaSalle, and LaSalle like basically tells you like you have to get an externship while you're in school. Like you're not going to learn enough just in school. Like you have to get out in hospital somewhere, and like you have to work like while you're in school. And I think that's like super valuable. Like training new nurses. Like I see a big difference between people who are like were externs and people who just like went to school and then just show up and think they can be a nurse. Like they're terrible. And there's like that, a lot of the on the job training sort of component. And I don't know. And essentially what it comes down to nowadays as far as the degrees is sort of what job you want. So like if you're so like we're we're right near Philadelphia. There's like Cooper's like not super far away. Like a big hospital like that, like any of the downtown hospitals, like you won't get hired if you don't have a bachelor's degree at least. But you can you can still get a diploma program thing, like basically a 1-year degree and pass your boards and get hired at some shit community hospital making like $40 an hour, and like taking care of patients, like, which is kind of scary.
Yeah.
But now they're trying to get a push for nurse practitioners to need a doctorate in order to practice. But like, I don't think it's ever going to happen until they actually have, until they at least need a bachelor's degree to be a nurse. Like, I don't know. Like, you gotta take a step back. But yeah, but it's called like it's called a pink collar profession. So like they generally get less respect because they were traditionally like
Yeah,
women's professions.
yeah, and I understand that, you know, nurses, like in hospitals, nurses do a bulk of the work, but they're told what to do.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, and there's a huge quality difference there too. I mean, like, I've worked with, and you can really tell the difference. And it doesn't always impact on patient care. Like, so if you're like, if you take care of medicine patients generally, I mean, you essentially do, like, you draw their blood, you give them medicines, you like make sure they don't die.
right,
If you take care of like sick, like surgical patients, like I've taken care of transplant patients. There's a big difference between, like, and there's definitely nurses out there that don't understand like the pathophysiology of things, or like don't understand really what the medicines do, and you could tell because they're fucking morons, and like they just do the things that are like on their list of stuff to do, and their patients definitively do worse. Like a lot of their patients will be fine just
right.
because I mean people just heal on their own. Like if you just don't kill them, like they tend to get better. But there's a big difference between then like a nurse who like understands all the stuff and like will catch subtle changes, and like so you'll intervene earlier,
Right.
or you'll or there'll be an order and you'll be like, well, I don't think this is really the best thing to do for this guy. You want to do this instead? And like a lot of times, because a lot of times you have a super experienced nurse working with essentially a brand new doctor. So I mean, the doctor has the medical school training, and like eventually they're going to know all this stuff.
Right.
But a lot of the times they're the ones doing the frontline stuff.
Yeah.
So then if you have a really experienced nurse, you're telling them like, I don't know if you really want to do this, and like if they're smart, a lot of times they'll like at least double check themselves and be like, yeah, maybe you're right, maybe we'll do this instead.
Right.
And it can make a big difference. But again, there's no, I mean, there's no vetting, there's no way to rate that. Like,
Right.
there are some hospitals that have like a tier system for nurses. That like after so many accomplishments or whatever, like you're like it's like all right on your title, like you're a higher tier nurse.
Right.
But most hospitals don't. Like it's just a complete crapshoot as a patient. If you get the person who has a master's degree who understands everything about your health versus if you get the person who like is like needs a new refrigerator, so like they're working an extra shift this week
Right.
and like
Right.
really doesn't give any shits. I don't know.
It is like, yeah, like you said, like you need your checks and balances. You're like
Mm-hmm.
an experienced nurse with a new doctor,
Mm-hmm.
but no matter how experienced that nurse is, there's so much education that doctor has that nurse will
Yeah,
never have.
but a lot of it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
is what I would say. So I'm a bad reader. Um, I, I mean, I've like basically most, I would say 90% of what I've learned from urology has been talking with the urologist I work with, or from when a problem comes up, like looking into the problem and then figuring it out and then like learning it as I go. I'm not someone who like sat down and read like a bunch of urology textbooks like when I started. Are you are you pouring beer over me on the microphone?
Yeah, it made such a cool noise, but now it's not making it. It made that gloop gloop gloop
Yeah.
gloop gloop gloop.
But I'm not a good reader. So there's a lot. So while I
I mean,
know,
you haven't even read Call of Cthulhu yet,
I
but
still haven't read it. So while there's some like subtle things I don't know, I mean, so I would say, the handful of things I sort of subspecialize in urology. It's kind of cool to think of because I mean, how many urologists and urology nurse practitioners are there in the world? And then I work for a major health system where I get to really subspecialize in a couple things. So I probably have more knowledge about a couple little topics than like everyone but like a few thousand people in the world out of like 6 billion people. But even with that, I mean, there's things I just don't know in those areas because I don't have the formal education, and I don't. And again, I'm not a good reader, so it's not like I've memorized all this stuff. And I would say 99% of the time, it has absolutely no impact. I understand the majority of what it is. I understand what the right decision is. I make the right decision. I make the right assessment, and the fact that I didn't have that extra little med school piece has zero impact on anything.
Yeah, but
So,
whatever you
uh,
don't know,
yeah.
there's always someone there that does.
Uh,
Usually from experience.
yeah.
Maybe not like at your office, but there's
Yeah.
always someone that you can contact.
Like and especially how like I don't know, like I had to get someone in emergently like with infectious disease today, because it was like a problem that like I couldn't handle, but like I was pretty sure nobody else in my
He
office
like
could either.
he like he opens his gown. And you're like, I gotta get a different doctor. I'll be right
Mhm.
back.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't really know how to explain that without making myself like sound stupid. But I mean, essentially, there's like, well, I would compare it. So, I work like I like
Well, you can't sound stupid because the medical field everything's so specialized.
yeah.
So I mean, like people that think like doctors are doctors, doctors aren't doctors. Doctors are super specialized.
Yeah, but like, but yeah, but I mean, there's just stuff that that I just don't know that if I had gone to medical school that I would know, but I would say that almost never, and like almost never is a tricky word because there's the one time it does, but I would say I guess I guess this is what I would compare it to. I would compare it to Wikipedia in this way, in that so if you went on Wikipedia and you looked up a topic that you knew nothing about, they could say whatever the fuck they wanted on there, and you'd have no idea. You'd have no way to fact check it. But if you looked on Wikipedia and you saw a topic that you knew really well, you know, you know enough to have like a confirmation of like, okay, yeah, that's all true, and then maybe there's one or two things that like you're like, I don't know, I want to double check that.
Right.
That's sort of what being a nurse practitioner is like. So like I understand, almost everything about, these couple topics that I do routinely. But there's like little pieces that I, sort of have picked up as I've gone along that I don't necessarily have because I don't have the formal education specifically in this topic. But it's that same sort of thing. Like, I can look at a patient, get all the facts that I need to make a decision, look at everything. And then like, I know like if something's a little off here, like I need to look into it a little more, and then I can, so like not knowing it off the top of my head, like doesn't make a difference. Like I know there's something I know when there's something I don't know essentially.
Well,
You know?
it is like the difference between like practice and theory.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's like the medical education is the theory,
Yeah.
and then working is the practice.
Yeah,
which
that's
they do a little bit of both.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you can make a really strong debate either way as to like which one's more important and like how much you need of each one.
Yeah, and
So
I think it's a mixture of both, but it
yeah,
depends on what the mixture is.
yeah. So like I have less of the theory. So compare me who like deals with a lot of kidney stones to like a general urologist in like let's say at a smaller hospital. So I haven't had a formal education in how to treat kidney stones, but I've treated thousands of kidney stones.
Yeah.
So and I've treated a lot of complex kidney stones. So and I work with a doctor who's a kidney stone specialist. So I get to like get his knowledge all the time too. That like I've learned over the last few years.
Right.
So I'll get a patient that I'll see in the office from like smaller hospital urologist, or they see a urologist that's not a stone specialist, and I'll be like, what the fuck was this guy doing? Like what was he doing to you? Like I won't say, but that's what I'm thinking in my head.
Right.
And I mean, and he probably has more of the formal knowledge about it, but like I know what I'm doing, like
Yeah.
I don't know, like I have the practical knowledge. I don't know.
So funny thing is just like practice
Mm.
and like theory and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Like my dad was a machinist. He started sweeping shops and everything. So he worked in machine shops for almost 35 years, right?
Yeah.
So he was like one of the best like machinists on the East Coast, manual machinist, and like he was super good at it, and he could do things like 1/200,000th of a inch, clearance and all like,
Mm.
all this crazy stuff. Trig in his head.
Yeah.
The motherfucker couldn't hang a picture. like it's like woodworking like was out the window.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like this guy's so good at one thing,
Yeah.
but like hang a picture like a hammer. Like how do I even use this? Like how do I use this brute tool?
Yeah. Well, and so that's sort of how we look at. So like it's like working as an RN in the hospital. You know, since I still do that a few times a month. That's essentially how you look at like a new doctor is like that. Like oh, he has all this information, but he has no fucking idea how to use it.
Yeah.
Like it's like he just like it's like having this big tool bag, but like you don't know what to pick yet.
Uh,
You know.
Still medical related. Question for you.
Mm.
What's up with
Yeah.
diabetic test strips?
so this is one of my topics that I texted JD today.
Because I see the signs, and my brother and I, we were wondering what's up with diabetic test strips as well. Do they sell them? Are they used test strips? Do people die? Do you like how's it even work? I didn't even know that was like a black market thing.
Yeah, so I saw a sign today. It was like buying diabetic test strips, like cash or whatever. So what I assume is happening is so I don't know if there's like some black market use for them, if it's just like literally other people using them as diabetic test strips, which I'm assuming what happens. But I'm assuming it's like the food stamps thing. You know, like people get like like $200 worth of food stamps, but like they don't need any more food, so they sell them for $100. And then someone gets $200 worth of food stamps for cheaper, and they get the $100 cash they can use for whatever. I think the same thing's happening. I think because diabetes is one of the things that's like pretty well covered by insurance. So I'm assuming people are getting like cheap test strips and then selling them to people like at a profit because they paid nothing for them, and then those people are selling them again at a profit, but still cheaper than people without insurance could get them. But I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting thing because it's like, I couldn't tell if the topic was more of like exploiting poor people because like you're essentially telling them to like forget about their health just for a quick monetary gain. Because presumably if they have diabetic test strips, they're diabetic and should be testing their blood sugar, and they're giving up the ability to do that for like a little bit of money, which maybe they need for other reasons. Or is it more like a gaming the system topic where it's like, these people either don't care about their health, so never we're going to check their blood sugar anyway, or maybe you're like borderline diabetic where maybe they don't need to do it, but they like qualify to get the test strips. And then they're like, so they're essentially taking money from the government to get the free test strips or cheap test strips, and then they're selling them at a profit.
Right. Even here's the crazy thing about diabetes.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes it's natural. Like I went to high school, diabetes.
Yeah.
I went to high school with a girl who had diabetes her whole life.
Yeah,
Like,
that's rough.
yeah, and then I was friends for a little bit with a girl who was also younger than me, also had diabetes. So I know
Yeah.
like diabetes is one of those things, and like I knew them, and I trusted like they ate right. They weren't like super obese or whatever. They just have it. Some people just have diabetes, and like I guess manageable. But diabetes, the craziest thing about diabetes, most cases are reversible.
Yeah. Well, so
It's like people are like, I live the rest of my life with diabetes. I don't know. Why don't you just change your health habits,
yeah.
eat better, and lose some weight? Because that's like what most people like that. I lost all this weight. I don't even have to check my blood sugar for diabetes anymore.
Yeah, you hear it all the
It's
time.
like all the time, and it's like,
yeah.
why don't you just do that instead of living with the diabetes?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, there's two different types. Is sort of what you were talking about.
Yeah.
So was used to be called type 1 diabetes is essentially it's basically a body malfunction. It has nothing to do with lifestyle. Essentially, just your pancreas stops working and stops making insulin.
Right.
And then there's the type 2 diabetes where you make enough insulin, but your body's resistant to it because like you've essentially had so much extra sugar for so long that your body's going to make so much extra insulin that your body just doesn't respond to it anymore.
Well, yeah. There's a lady I work with, and she would eat like glazed donuts or whatever, and she was probably like, I don't know, 70 pounds overweight.
Yeah.
And
The diabetes got me.
Yeah, she's like, I gotta go get my diabetes checked. Diabetes, but and she's like, I was talking to her the other day, and I was like, oh, you look great. You lost like how much weight did you? She's like, oh, I lost like 80 pounds,
Wow,
whatever.
that's awesome.
And then like she's still kind of heavy, but like
Yeah.
not super heavy. Like she looked real bad.
Yeah.
And she like lost all this weight, and I was like, "Oh, how's your diabetes?" She's like, "I haven't had diabetes in like 3 months." I
Yeah.
I was like, "That's all you had to do.
Yeah.
Stop eating glazed donuts and bread, and lose like a ton of weight." And
Glazed
she's-
donuts are not breakfast.
She's fine now.
Yeah.
Like she had to leave work go to the hospital because her blood sugar crashed or whatever, like a bunch of times,
Yeah.
and now like she's fine. Like her skin's like not as pale. You know, she could talk. You know, she doesn't have to worry about testing her blood. It's like
It's awesome.
it's
Yeah.
kind of like it's preventable and reversible most of the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's some interplay with it, like so. Like because with type 2 diabetes, it's like how much insulin your body makes versus how well your body uses that insulin. And genetically, some people are better off than others. I mean, if you ate a perfect diet, probably even if your genetics were really bad, you'd be okay. But if you're a little, like I mean, Christ, I'm probably fucking like 40 pounds overweight, like technically. Like I don't look like that because it's like in my belly. Because I don't even know I haven't weighed myself in a while because I've lost weight, but I was like up to 220. And I probably should be like 180 for my
I'm
height.
238.
Yeah.
Technically, I'm like 60 pounds overweight.
Yeah, that's the thing. So that's kind of crazy, um, but yeah, but like for me, and this is just like genetic wise, like when I gain extra weight, I gain it in my belly, and that's like the bad fat. That's like the fat that's it's metabolically active. It secretes hormones that are bad for your blood pressure that cause diabetes and stuff. So like I'd have to be in like really good shape to like eliminate my risk for diabetes altogether versus like another person who like probably could be like my weight and like really wouldn't have any chance of getting diabetes because like their fat's just distributed differently and they just have different like everyone in my family has diabetes.
Oh, are you talking about like me?
Yeah. So like people that are more like pear shaped, for example,
Right.
wouldn't have as big of a risk because that fat's not as metabolically active. Now that's not an excuse. I could be in better shape, and like I've been going to the gym for a couple months. Like I've gotten in a lot better shape. I've been in better shape at other points in my life. I had like a lull like for about a year where I got really out of shape again. So it's not really an excuse, but it's like just it will be more difficult for me to avoid diabetes over my lifetime than some other people. But that being said, like I have some control over whether I get diabetes when I'm 50 or whether I get it when I'm 70. So I don't know.
So, because I am like according to those medical charts, 60 pounds overweight.
Yeah, my BMI is like 36,
Oh,
37. I
I'm
don't know.
morbidly obese.
Yeah.
And so the girl I'm seeing, like I'm super ticklish. So she's trying to tickle me, right? And like we're playing around, and she's trying to tickle me, and I won't let her. And then like I just laid on top of her, and like she's out of breath. I was like, all right, stop trying to tickle me. Like that was my defense. Like
Yeah.
I like squished her.
That's what I do to Kelly too.
Yeah, I squished her. And then
Yeah.
like a couple days later, we're hanging out, and she's like, I'm not trying to be rude, and like she's like the rudest person in the world. Like she's super mean. I guess that's why I like her, but like she's like super mean, and she goes like, I'm not trying to be rude. She's like, you don't move like you're 240. She's like, when you're walking and like you're clothed, like you don't look like you're 240.
Yeah.
And she goes, you laid on me the other day. You felt every pound of 240.
Well, it's the same with me because I think I'm like a pretty solid guy, and like it's the same for you. So I think we have like a lot of muscle. So we just weigh more. I don't know. Like like I don't know. No, like my entire life, no one's been able to guess my weight. Like I was
Oh,
like
me either.
I was like doing those stupid carnival things where they have to guess your weight within 10. Like people are usually way like 30 pounds off.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, yeah, that's the same thing I do to Kelly because my belly is like super hard. So I like lay on her and like push my belly out.
When I was 190 pounds, which is still like 20 pounds more than I should weigh.
Yeah.
According to chart, like I was like 195 pounds, and people are like, "You need to eat. You look gaunt," and I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm still overweight." They're like, "No, you're
Yeah.
not. Don't worry about it."
Yeah, I got down to I got down to like 195 and I was like I looked like the exact weight I would want to be when I was like 195.
Oh, by the way, Kevin's like 5'4" and I'm 5'11", so
I'm like 5'7", 5'6", 5'7". But now when I was like 195, like I looked good. Like I looked like exactly the weight I would want to be at. And I was still like technically like 20 pounds overweight. I don't know. So, and I think it's definitely worse cuz I go to the gym and like I don't like lift the free weights, but like I do like all the weight machine things. So I think I definitely put on muscle. Even like it really feels like even losing like the year plus I didn't go to the gym in between. Like I probably went for 18 months, then I like took a year off, and then I've been going for a couple months again. Um, but I feel like I still derive some benefit even from that like past gym experience. I don't know if it was just having the experience of going and like knowing how to work out a little more now, or if I did just retain some degree of muscle over that time period, like if I changed my body a little bit from that other gym time, because I feel like I picked up the weight a lot faster this time than I did last time. Which incidentally, I just upped my weights like this week on like all the machines I do. Feel like I felt like a real badass all
Yeah.
week. I felt like real big.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Like the on Mondays, podcast days,
yeah,
I uh I go train like with one or two other people with like a personal trainer because
yeah,
something like I like doing it. It's like a pretty like I train with one guy and then there's like another trainer, and I just switched trainers because like he had a baby, so he's doing less, so he hired
mm,
more. But, long story short, I'm not a rep guy. Like they want you to do like 20 reps of this and like times five, like these different circuits.
yeah.
So
I can do that stuff.
she's like the one trainer. She's like you get fatigued real easy. And I was like, yeah, I don't like doing 30 of something in a row. And she's like, well, why not? And I was like, I'm not really like a rep guy. I'm like I fatigue between 8 and 12.
Mm,
And she's like, well, maybe just like when you work out alone, like maybe you should do it. I was like, you can't work stamina into people.
mm,
Like different, everyone's different. Like some people, like I'll never run a 6 minute mile.
yeah,
Like I'll never do it, and I'll never deadlift like 800 pounds. Like my body's not built for that.
yeah,
You know, but like somewhere in between, I'm there, and
mm,
I'm not a rep kind of guy, and I
yeah,
never have been. And you can't train someone to do that. Like your body's just not going to do that. And she's like, "Well, I've seen you do that lift like 240 pounds." And I was like, "Yeah, but I've done 8 at 240
mm,
pounds." And she's like, "Yeah, but this is only 80 pounds. You can't do 20." I'm like, "No, I fatigue like 12." So I mean, it
yeah,
doesn't matter the weight. It's just like my body's gonna fatigue.
yeah. No, I'm pretty similar. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the difference. Like, I don't know. I feel like other people's body proportions amaze me. Like, so like the weight thing. Like, I mean, me being at like a BMI of 25, like I can't even imagine like what I would look like. Like, I'd be like, I don't know. Like my body would just be a different shape. Like it'd be strange. Or like when you see the weights people use, like so I just upped from so on like all the so I was basically at like 90 pounds on like all the different machines, like the abdominal one, like the chest things, like the arm things, and I went up to like some of them were like 95, some were like 100. I did do like 115 on some of the chest things now. um and but then like I feel it feels so heavy. And then like I look and like people like are like at like 200 pounds on
Yeah.
these things, and I'm like, how is that even possible? Like that's fucking
Well,
ridiculous.
gym rule
I
number
don't know.
one: worry about your reps.
Yeah, I know. I
Yeah.
don't really stress about it, but like some of the time you see it, it's like, oh, and like my like the little pin thing is like in the middle for me,
Yeah.
and some people it's like all the way at the bottom. Like, oh
And
my god, like I couldn't do that once.
but they're
That's
yoked.
crazy.
They're yoked.
What do you mean?
Like buff as shit.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
So like at my gym, not the free weights, but like all the cable weights and
yeah,
everything, I could do all the maxes.
yeah,
I could do them
yeah,
like 1 or 2 reps,
yeah.
but that's it. So I
Yeah.
don't I don't do them.
Yeah. So even so it's like I have pretty big legs, and I don't understand the whole chest day, arm day, leg day shit. Like I basically do like a full just circuit of everything every time I go.
Which is fine as long as you're working out.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically every time I go, I work out everything. I go for like between an hour and a half. I do like 30 reps of like, I do like 30 to 50 reps on like each on like whatever machine for each muscle group. So I do my legs like 3 or 4 days a week. So I have like pretty big legs. Like I always have. And now they've been working out. Like I feel like they're pretty big, and to see people do like 3 times the weight I'm doing on like some of the leg machines, like I don't even understand. Like why would you even need legs that strong? like what is that even like?
I don't know. I think that's the one thing I do love doing is just like maxing out on the leg press.
Yeah.
You know, and
Well,
you're like,
so leg press is one thing, but doing the one like the leg lifts and like the pullbacks for your hamstrings, like
ah, it's so fun.
like people do massively high weights. That I don't understand it.
Oh,
Like,
you're talking like 180 pounds and
yeah,
like
or like
200
higher
pounds.
even.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like the leg lifts, I could think I could do a little more than I'm doing, and I'm been slowly upping the weights on them. The I don't know what it's called, but like the one that works your hamstrings. I can't do it. I'm at like 70 pounds on that, and I
That's
can't
fine.
go up. It just
The
hurts.
best though is when you see like the muscles bulging out in your quads.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like you're like that's the only like muscle I have that's like actually like pretty good. So like I stand up, I'm like, look at these quads, guys.
Well, I think I'm a little scared of the hamstring one because the one time I did it, and I did like more reps than I usually do, and I stood up, and I thought like the back of my leg was gonna spasm, and I was terrified because I couldn't even imagine what that pain would be like. So I just stood perfectly still next to the machine for like a solid 5 minutes before I attempted to walk. So I don't know if I'm just scared after that. So that's why like I'm like nervous to, like up it more. I
What's
don't
the
know.
worst that can happen?
The back of my legs could spasm. It would be the worst pain that imaginable. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Oh, Monday morning, or sorry, Saturday morning, like 4 o'clock in the morning before I go to work, I went
Yeah.
to go get like a coffee cup,
Mm.
and I dropped the cutting board on like my foot, like the corner of the cutting board
Ah,
hit
that
my
sucks.
foot, and my foot was fucked up.
Yeah.
And I decided to go to work after that, and
Mm.
I was like, my foot hurts by the end of the day. I'm just gonna say I hurt it at work,
Yes.
and then it wasn't hurting, and then like today I went back to work and like my foot started hurting again. And I was like, I should just go to Concentra. And I was like, they're gonna know.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to know now. We talked about it on this popular podcast.
No, it's fine now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Um. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I had another point, but I totally blanked out at this point. I'm just
Real quick, do you want to talk? What you think about the Discovery Museum? Please Touch Museum.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Kelly's like outraged about this. She's brought it up like several times over the last couple of weeks. She found out that if you have like a welfare, like an access card, you get into a bunch of places like the Please Touch Museum for $2, and it makes her furious for some reason. I guess because it's like $18. Like if you work every day, it's $18.
All right.
If you have an access card and you don't have a job, it's $2.
Well,
So
I understand what she's getting at,
yeah,
but coming from me, who's tried to learn about all this other stuff, it's like when people think about welfare,
mm.
they think about the people who really try to game the
yeah,
system.
that's
But
absolutely true.
but there are so many, and I'm just gonna say this: there are families, but mostly there are so many single mothers who are on welfare, and their children also have to have like a childhood.
I
You know,
agree.
and it really helps them. Now you always hear about like the small percentage of people that game welfare,
Mm.
but the people that actually use it,
Yeah.
those kids have to have a childhood too.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think I think this is one of the big political divides where like people get pissed off at each other. Is I think like like the folks that like the Republican Party try to court like the Donald Trump in particular try to court like think of welfare and they think they think that 100% of people on welfare are like the people that try to game the system and like don't want to work. And then I think when you talk to like like a certain faction of like the Democratic Party, like the real like uppity like get my $7 latte from Starbucks everyday crowd, like they think about like exclusively about like the working poor that like work two jobs and still can't make it and get welfare.
Right.
And then I think and I think in their heads 100% of people on welfare are that. And like I feel like no one thinks about both types of people ever. So it's like a natural conflict because obviously if you see all people on welfare as people that are gaming the system, then you're going to get furious when people try to expand welfare. And then if you see all people on welfare as people who are just trying to make it get by and they need a little help from the government, then you're going to get furious when people get furious about people trying to like expand welfare. Like
Yeah.
like there's no way to like bring people together on that debate.
Right, but you have to live it to understand.
Yeah.
It has such a negative connotation to be on welfare. When I broke my ankle,
Yeah.
it was so bad.
Mm.
You only get 6 months of disability,
Yeah.
and then you have to really prove it, like if it's long term.
Mm.
And like my doctor, when I first broke it, he said that I'm not going to be able to walk for 2 years.
Wow.
But like after 9 weeks, I had 9 weeks of recovery, and then I had another surgery to get some of the spare pins, so it was completely immobile out.
Yeah.
And then I had, I think it's supposed to be 9 months of physical therapy,
Yeah.
and then I would go back,
Yeah.
and then they would give me long term disability.
Mm.
That's 9 months. That's 3 months I can't be on anything,
Yeah.
right? So month 6, I was like, I can't really walk yet, and they're like, yeah, we know, we got 3 more months,
Yeah.
and then we'll talk about long term disability.
Huh.
So I went on welfare,
Yeah.
but then after the like second week into like not doing that,
Yeah.
they're like, all right, your long term disability is approved.
Okay.
So they approved it, but I was still on welfare, food stamps. They helped me
Yeah.
out. I wasn't on like complete thing. They paid my electric bill.
Mm.
Then I got something else too. It was great, and
Yeah.
like they were super supportive,
Yeah.
and that's all they do is they make sure you have a job or you're like looking for a job.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, all right, but I can't walk, and they're like, okay, just prove it to us. And I was like, okay, here's my long term disability.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, well, you have to go up to disability. So you have to go up to the net, like in Burlington County, you have to just go up a couple flights of steps.
Mm.
And it's like right up there. And
They're
then
like, but I can't walk up.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then, well, the elevator. And then you, like, it's like the next floor up or the
Yeah.
floor up above that. So I go get my paperwork and they approve my paperwork. I come back down. They're like, yeah, you'll have your, like, a card. Here's, like, money in the meantime. Like they cut you a check so you can go get groceries and all this
Yeah.
other stuff. So it was like great. They're like super used to it. And like as soon as I was able to work, I like called them up and I was like, look, I don't need this anymore.
Yeah.
And they were like, all right. And they canceled it that day.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think but like I think that's I don't know. I think that's the problem though. I don't think anyone can see both sides of the problem. So then like people, like if you're a bleeding heart liberal, like you just think that these people that don't want people to get welfare are just such assholes. Like they don't understand.
Right.
But meanwhile, those people know some people that abuse the system, and they're
Yeah.
like kind of pissed
Well,
about it.
when I went to Rider University, I was taking a bus back home, and the
Yeah.
bus go through Trenton, New Jersey. And this guy, he had orange juice and like a sandwich, right?
Yeah.
And this is like the perfect example of what people see in the negative connotation towards welfare.
Yeah.
He's screaming about how welfare is cutting his check
Yeah.
because they say he can get a job.
Yeah.
Then he throws his trash off the back of the bus onto the ground, and he screams about it more.
Yeah.
And like that's what people picture when they picture people on welfare.
Yeah.
Not a mom with
Yeah.
3 children
Yeah.
who like their father died and say
Yeah.
in a car accident. I'm
Yeah.
not saying the dad's a deadbeat.
Yeah.
They can't picture that mom who's like, okay, I can't feed and diaper and take care and pay for school clothes and everything by
Yeah.
myself with the job I have.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
That was like a depressing ending to this week's whole week, Costa. But next week will be way more fun because we'll have different beer.
We're gonna
and
about the
then-
Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah, we'll learn about Call of Cthulhu. So good night, and we'll tune in next week, I guess.